The moment he looked up from his coffee and saw her struggling through the cafe door with 3 identical toddlers clinging to her legs, his first thought was that fate had made a cruel joke. The second was that something irreversible had just begun. The third came much later, when his heart was already too involved to pretend otherwise. Before the story truly unfolds, pause for just a second. If you believe in kindness and second chances, in people showing up for each other when life gets messy and unexpected, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this exist because people still believe love can surprise us. He had agreed to the blind date reluctantly, pushed into it by his sister who claimed that loneliness was starting to show on his face the way wrinkles show on old photographs. As a single father, his life was measured in lunchboxes, school drop-offs, late-night laundry, and the quiet ache that followed once his own child fell asleep. Dating felt like an indulgence he no longer deserved. Still, on that rainy Saturday afternoon, he sat in the corner of a small cafe, jacket folded neatly beside him, trying to remember how to hope without expecting too much. When she arrived, everything changed at once. She was late, flustered, hair half-tied, eyes apologetic before she even spoke. 3 little boys, clearly triplets, moved around her like planets with their own gravity, pulling her in different directions. Other patrons stared. Some smiled politely. Others frowned, as if her presence disrupted an unspoken rule about quiet spaces and neat lives. She looked like someone used to carrying judgment on her shoulders, like a coat she could never quite take off. She had almost turned around. That much was clear. He could see it in the way her body angled toward the door, in the way she whispered reassurances to her children while scanning the room, perhaps wondering if this was a mistake. Too big to undo. But then their eyes met, and something in his expression made her pause. Not surprise, not irritation, just recognition. Her life had not unfolded the way she once imagined. Becoming a mother had come early, and becoming a single mother had come brutally. Triplets had not been part of any plan, yet they became the center of everything. She loved them fiercely, painfully, but exhaustion had carved deep lines into her spirit. Babysitters were rare, family support unreliable, and the idea of dating with 3 toddlers felt almost laughable. Still, a friend had insisted, saying she deserved more than survival. She deserved joy, even if it arrived imperfectly. The cafe felt smaller now, filled with the sound of children's laughter and the soft chaos of movement. She apologized without words, with her eyes and posture bracing herself for rejection. She expected him to stand up politely, to make an excuse, to retreat into the safety of lowered expectations. That was what most people did when confronted with the reality of her life. Instead, he did something unexpected. He stood, smiled gently, and moved a chair. Then another. He cleared space, wiped a small spill without being asked, and motioned for her to sit. He knelt briefly to help one child retrieve a dropped toy, his movements unhurried, practiced, as if this was not an inconvenience but a familiar rhythm. In that moment, something inside her cracked open, a fragile place she had armored carefully for years. He knew what it was like to be judged by circumstance. After losing his wife suddenly, he had learned how quickly people reduced him to a label: widower, single dad, broken. They spoke to him with pity or awkward encouragement, never quite seeing the man beneath the role. Raising his daughter alone had forced him to grow in ways he never anticipated, teaching him patience, humility, and the quiet heroism of showing up every day even when his heart felt hollow. As the minutes passed, the cafe faded into the background. They talked, not in the polished way of first dates, but in fragments, in shared understanding. Parenting stories overlapped, exhaustion became a common language, and laughter slipped in unexpectedly light and healing. Her children eventually settled, drawn to the calm in his presence. He didn't try to impress, he simply stayed. The challenge was not the children, it was the weight of fear hanging between them. She feared being seen as too much, too complicated, too broken. He feared opening a door he had spent years carefully keeping shut, afraid that love might demand more than he had left to give. Each smile carried risk. Each moment of comfort threatened to unravel carefully constructed defenses. Outside, the rain intensified, blurring the windows and softening the world beyond the glass. Time stretched. When the date ended, there was no dramatic declaration, no promise of forever, Just a quiet exchange of gratitude, heavy with meaning. She left unsure if she would ever hear from him again, already preparing herself for disappointment, the familiar companion she had learned not to argue with. Days passed, life resumed its relentless pace. Then a message arrived, simple, thoughtful, asking how the boys were, asking how she was. Not rushing, not retreating, just present. Their connection grew slowly, intentionally. They met in parks instead of restaurants, shared meals that involved sticky fingers and laughter instead of candlelight. He introduced her to his daughter, cautiously, respectfully. She watched him parent, noticing the tenderness beneath his quiet strength. He watched her navigate chaos with grace she didn't know she possessed. Challenges surfaced quickly. Schedules collided. Money was tight. Exhaustion returned like an old ache. There were moments when she pulled away, convinced she was asking too much. Moments when he questioned whether blending two already full lives was selfish. But each time doubt crept in. Something. Steadier replaced it, commitment without pressure, affection without demand. The unexpected thing he did was not just welcoming her triplets on a blind date, it was choosing consistency. He chose to show up again and again, not as a savior, but as a partner. He chose to see her not as a burden, but as a woman shaped by strength and sacrifice. He chose to love her children not because he had to, but because his heart expanded naturally, as hearts sometimes do when allowed. One evening months later, she watched him help one of her sons tie his shoes while his daughter read quietly nearby. The scene struck her with such force that she had to step away, overwhelmed by gratitude and disbelief. This was the life she never dared to imagine, not perfect, but real, shared, safe. Healing did not arrive as a grand moment. It arrived in small acts, in shared grocery lists, in tired smiles at the end of long days, in the way he reached for her hand instinctively when the world felt heavy, in the way she learned, slowly, to stop apologizing for her existence. Love, she realized, was not about being easy. It was about being seen fully and still chosen. If this story is reaching something deep inside you, if it reminds you of your own fears, hopes, or quiet prayers for connection, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and let us know in the comments that it touched your heart. Your engagement helps these stories find the people who need them most. Before the story ends, we have a special request. Please comment the word hope below if you believe that love can arrive in unexpected forms, even when life feels overwhelming. Years later, she would think back to that rainy afternoon and marvel at how close she came to turning away. How easily fear could have robbed her of something extraordinary. He would remember the moment she walked in with her triplets and smile, knowing that the chaos he once feared became the greatest gift of his life. Sometimes love does not arrive quietly or neatly. Sometimes it bursts through the door, loud, complicated, and demanding space. And sometimes, when someone chooses not to step back, but to step forward instead, everything changes.